Today we're here to answer one question. Can the enigmatic Sony RX1 be your only camera? The Sony RX1 is one of the original walk-around cameras with a single focal length fixed lens. That's the 35mm focal length with a full frame sensor. The only other camera that really competes with it in this category is the Leica Q series, which also has a full frame sensor but has a 28mm focal length fixed lens. So the RX1 came out in 2013, was originally announced in 2012, released in 2013, and it was a premium offering by Sony in the enthusiast market. And the RX1 had a 24 megapixel full frame sensor and a Zeiss 35mm f2.0 lens. Right now we're shooting on the RX1 today, and the question I'm asking is, can this be your only camera? A 13-year-old camera, 12 to 13-year-old camera with a 24 megapixel sensor, a leaf shutter lens, pretty basic stabilization, pretty basic auto focus, but it does have face detect, raw capability in terms of still images, shoots raw and JPEGs. The photo side of the RX1 has never really been in doubt. It's a fantastic performing camera, great colors, the lens is fantastic, optics on this camera. Form factor is amazing, such a small camera. It's really actually difficult to comprehend how small the body is on this camera. It's the size of essentially a Ricoh GR series camera with the addition of the lens. Very similar in size to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera OG. And that leads us to the one big question about the Sony RX1 as a general purpose single camera that you could own and use for both photography and video. What are the video specs of the camera and how does it perform as a video camera? Right off the bat, it doesn't have the kind of specs that we see in today's lineup of cameras. There's a big emphasis on codecs these days. 10-bit is very prevalent in most cameras these days, or many cameras. Many of the top-end cameras have 10-bit internal recording. Some cameras are even recording 12-bit internally. The RX1's HD shooting 1080p at 24 frames per second, or also the ability to shoot 60 frames per second in 1080p with an 8-bit color bit depth does not seem that impressive on paper. In fact, the contemporary of the Sony RX1, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera OG, had 1080p but also was able to record both 10-bit in ProRes and 12-bit in Cinema DNG RAW. So as a video camera, obviously the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera had it beat in codec. But one of the things about the RX1 that distinguishes it is the size of the sensor. Being that it is a full frame sensor with a 35mm lens, it is a distinct look that it could bring to the table. Obviously, it doesn't have a log profile, so that's a bit of a downside if you're looking to color grade. But the colors right out of camera are good, and there's many profiles and the ability to modify profiles within the camera itself. So you could tweak your look within the camera itself and get very usable files. Another thing about the files that the RX1 produces, there's two different file formats that it can produce. The best is the AVC HD format, which is an H.264 codec, and it does 24 megabits per second in 24p, and I believe it does 28 megabits per second in 60p. So there's a pretty good bandwidth for the HD files that it produces. There's also a MP4 setting on the camera. I would always recommend to use the AV-CHD codec in this camera, and it does produce very good results, as we'll see in this video. So can this camera act as your everything camera? For some people, I really do think it could. This is the oldest version. This is the RX1 Mark 1. There was an RX1R, and then there was an RX1R Mark 2. So there's 3 iterations of this camera. This is the original. It's very affordable on the market. I think I paid about $850 Canadian 2 or 3 years ago for this camera. So it's not an expensive camera. File sizes are very small with the video files because it's shooting 8-bit and, as I said, 24 megabits per second. So you can shoot a 20-minute long video and you're only a few gigabytes of data. And that's a big advantage as well. When we look at other cameras of its era, we have, as I've stated, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera OG, which has a Super 16 sensor size. Although one of my favorite cameras, definitely a great walk-around camera for video, not a stills camera. If we were to look at the very high end at this era, we have the ARRI Alexa, the ARRI Alexa Classic, which also shoots in 1080p and does shoot 2K internally, but it shoots quad 4 ProRes, which is a 12-bit color depth, and it also can shoot 422 HQ, which is a 10-bit format. The RX1 can't really compare to that, but what it can do is it can be carried with you everywhere in a pocket. When you have a camera that you can slip into your pocket, it means that you can basically take it anywhere with you, and it means that it's the camera that you're going to have on you at all times. The camera is also capable of taking a microphone input, so you can record audio internally through the microphone input using a wireless system. It's a very compact and very usable setup to be able to shoot talking head type of videos like this. And then lastly, the last thing I'd like to address is the 35mm focal length. This is a focal length that is classic. It has characteristics that allow it to be both a wide lens and show the surrounding environment, but also has the lens characteristics of the 35mm focal length are pleasing to the eye and are complementary to the human face. It doesn't distort the face, the facial features, like a wider angle lens would, and at the same time it does give wide enough field of view that you are immersed in the environment. So in that respect, the 35mm focal length on the full frame sensor of the RX1 is a unique and awesome pairing. In fact, for video, I think I'd prefer this 35mm lens to the Leica Q, for example, which has the 28mm lens, which is a great focal length and especially good for street photography. But for an all-arounder, the 35mm focal length I think is a better choice, given the fact that it does complement the human face better, and it still gives you that wide angle of view, relatively wide angle of view, to immerse you in the environment as well. I would be very happy taking the Sony RX1 with me, for example, on a trip to Vietnam, where it would be my predominant camera, the camera that I would use daily for walking around. In fact, that's my plan. The next time we go to Vietnam, I plan to take the RX1 with me. I would also probably take another camera for video, but I don't think that you necessarily would need to have another camera for video. I think my video needs are probably a little bit more advanced than the average person. If you were just wanting to capture lifestyle video along with your street photography, travel photography, I believe that RX1 would really do a good job for you. Even though it's 13 years old, it's an older camera, but the form factor, the build quality, The image quality and also, frankly, the video quality, as you can see here, is very good. And for most people, I think they would be very happy with the results that the RX1 give. What are your thoughts about something like the Sony RX1 being an everything camera? I guess nowadays the camera that comes to mind for a fixed focal length everything camera would be the X100, the Fuji X100, and I think it's the model Mark 6 now, which also has some pretty nice codecs in it. From what I understand, I think it has 10-bit internal recording now. So that might also be a very good camera for this type of do everything walk around camera in a very small compact form factor. Leave your comments below with what you think would be an excellent do everything walk around camera. Are you still using the Sony RX1 in 2025? I know it's my go-to camera. That and the Ricoh GR3, which is the 28mm focal length, which I also like for street photography. But I think for travel photography and general use, the RX1 is still my favorite. The RX1 is a special camera, and it really is probably my favorite do-everything camera that I own today. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. That's it for today. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a great one.